Hey, okay, good. We're recording. Well, I'm going to say welcome to my first inaugural. Is that the right word? Anxiety-free holidays workshop. This idea came to me just recently that so many of us walk around highly functioning, but we have these low levels of unease, right? Disease, anxiety, anxiousness. It comes in waves. For others, it's consistent, it's constant, but it always seems to be there. And so, given my history, which I'll talk about for all of maybe 30 seconds, and that I no longer have those waves, those highs and lows, the anticipation of something, and then I'm anxious, which for those who know, they're in my binge-free workshops and things of that nature, it leads to binges, which only causes more anxiety. I no longer have that anymore. And it's because of the principles and the solutions that I am going to be sharing with you over the next 90 minutes. I want to remind you that nothing happens in a vacuum, and that nothing happens instantly overnight, although I have seen amazing things happen for women in under 7 days when they follow my principles. But given that this is an anxiety-free workshop, and our anxiety tends to want to flare up when we feel overwhelmed, what I want to preface this with is you're not allowed to get overwhelmed here, okay? I've been doing this almost 2 decades now, teaching this work. I've mastered the sugar freedom method. I'm going to talk about some of these principles. And this stuff takes time. So the last thing I want is for you all to have come and joined me here, and then you have more anxiety when you get off. You're not allowed. And so that is my rule. And I'm not teaching the whole time. I'm giving plenty of time for this to be an interactive workshop, because I find that the work really happens when you're able to ask questions. And it's not just you sitting back in your chair or your couch, wherever you are, just listening. So just know I'm going to open up the lines about halfway through. And it's an opportunity for you to share what's going on, maybe a concept I missed, and something for you to ask me so you can get relief. I just want to say what I teach works. This isn't just something out of a book. And this is something else I want to share. If you have a family history like I do of addiction, anxiety, mental illness, I got it all, my friends. Depression, okay, I've seen both parents in and out, God bless, of the psychiatric unit, okay, of the hospital when I was a kid. Like, this stuff is real, okay? This is real. And it's figure outable. Look where I am now. I am not some special being. I just put all this together and this stuff works. But should you have had any sort of similar childhood where maybe your parents were depressed like mine, or you had a very nervous mother like I did, please know you're predisposed for anxiety. You're predisposed. Does that mean that you have to live with it forever? Excuse my language, fuck no. That's what I'm here for today, to teach you. But you're more predisposed. And so I was very nervous for a very long time, unrelated to what I'm going to teach today, because I grew up in an environment of that, and children absorb their environment. So why do I share that? I share that as the intro to this workshop because I need you off your back. There's something wrong with me. It just causes more anxiety. I want you to just know some of us are predisposed, and it's okay. And what I'm going to teach today works. And so if anyone had anxiety getting onto the workshop, my job today is to just bring it down before I even teach. And this is the one and only pitch, if it's even a pitch. Should you love this today, because I'm going to load you up with lots of information, I will not hold back. Just know there's an opportunity for additional support, ridiculously affordable. There's many different options. And some women who are here are in my Freedom Club already because they did other things and said, I would like more continued support. Then just know that's an option, but just get what you can from today. And yes, there's space for continued support. And I will mention that when I send the replay, but that's all I'm going to say about that right now. Okay, so now that I've given my intro, talked about my family history, how I've overcome this. Well, I've been teaching this for almost 2 decades. I would like to start with what I promised, which are the 3 root causes in my experience of where anxiety comes from, okay? So number 1, by the way, I want to say before I share this, because I know some of you are going to go, she's going to take my coffee or do like, I'm not taking anything from you. Yes, I do sugar addiction work for a living. But what I always say in all my programs, and even in the method, the Sugar Freedom Method, this is a step-by-step process. Okay. You don't just take things out. It causes anxiety. So what I want you to hear today from what I'm sharing is that slow and steady wins the race. So as I share root cause number 1, you're not to go, I can't eat that anymore. No, you can find alternatives. All right. So with that said, because the last thing I'm going to do is teach you all this and you have all this anxiety when you get off, right? It'll be self-defeating. And that is not how I teach. Okay. So number 1, the food and the drinks, the food and drink that we are consuming absolutely is attributing to anxious feelings, anxiety, and for those struggle with depression, for me, those 2 go hand in hand. So if you think I'm not really sure, I'm here to confirm that's a yes. And it's things like processed foods, sugar, and I'll say cane sugar is a very big one. Artificial sweeteners is a very big one. I'll explain a little bit about it, but I just want to get it on the table that the food and the drink that we're consuming absolutely adds to one's nervous tendencies. Another one is the wine. I'm not saying wine needs to come out. I personally know for myself, wine causes massive anxiety, and I'm not even anxious. I have that. I won't do it anymore. I'll just do tequila and other things. But I want you to start noticing from today, because I'll have wine and the next day, I'm like a jittery mess and I'm not interested. All right. And so consider that. Coffee, black tea could definitely be contributing. For some, they're not affected by caffeine. For others, you need to know, thinking about reducing or eliminating your caffeine will absolutely affect you. I cannot drink coffee. I cannot do black tea. Why? Because the caffeine content is too high and I get anxious thoughts. Yes? And so I just want you to just consider that anxiety is definitely figure outable, and that what you're eating and drinking. Now, what I want to explain about this is where it comes from is when your blood sugar is swinging. And by that, I mean, we skip breakfast. By the way, not judging. A lot of women who come see me, they're not hungry in the morning, so they just kind of let it go. I'm fasting. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Okay. Or they drink a lot of coffee with milk and sugar. What's happening is your blood sugar goes from very low to you spike it with sugar and coffee. And a lot of times women sometimes don't eat lunch. So your blood sugar drops again. And then we do this bingey thing. I know, because I'm teaching that right now in the 5-week binge-free life class. And then, right, it shoots back up your blood sugar, because then you go on this binge thing at 3:00. And so then you have a lot of sugar in your bloodstream. And then a lot of us feel bad, and then we don't feel hungry for dinner, and then we don't eat again, and blood sugar drops. I want you to know these low blood sugar to high blood sugar to low blood sugar to high blood sugar to low blood sugar is absolutely causing anxiety. And so when I teach this way, I'm going to be teaching in my kids' classroom. I'm so excited. They accepted me in there. Be teaching in a 6th grade class. I'm going to be teaching these highs and lows affect energy. But for us women, 40s to 60s, that's who we mostly cater to. That's when anxiety and body stuff happens and sugar addiction really takes hold. What I teach is I just need you to start eating meals, okay? Intermittent fasting has its place. For those who are here on the call, or if you're watching on replay at a later date, please know it has its place. But for those with massive amounts of anxiety, I always say, number one to my clients, I need you to stabilize your blood sugar. I need you to not fast and then eat a lot of sugar and then it drops highs and lows, okay? It causes anxiety. So that's number one around the food and drink. Now, the other thing I want to talk about is in these diet sodas. I actually didn't know this. A friend taught me. People say, but there's no sugar in these diet sodas and these, diet bars and things I eat. Well, the problem is that while the sugar doesn't register, so they say it's good for diabetics, the aspartame, the sucralose, even the sugar alcohols do something to us. And while they're good for diabetics, the problem is it's still registering in the body, and it's causing, I don't need to get into this whole insulin thing, but what it's doing is it's causing an insulin response as if you had eaten, and it's causing high insulin. And insulin tells the body, first of all, it's inflammatory, okay, which I'll get into in a little bit. Inflammation causes anxiety, so it's inflammatory, but it's also causing the body to store weight, okay? High insulin levels tell the body whatever you just ate, store it. And so women who come see me, Jen, I'm only eating about 800 calories a day. I'm barely eating, but they're storing weight and they're anxious. And it's just because it's not registering in the body, it registers in the body, okay? We can't fool the body. Okay, so number one, root cause, just to recap for those who know me, this is how I teach. I always teach in a way where I repeat myself because I need these concepts to integrate. I am not looking for you to go, great workshop, Jen, and then we're done and you do nothing different. Okay, my job is for you to make small changes. Women know who are in my Freedom Club or 4-month intensive SFM, this is how I teach because it works. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about with food and drink is that chemicals also can cause anxiety. When we are sensitive to the foods we're eating, sensitive to them. And by the way, I teach this in a very simple way. We typically know we're sensitive to things, and don't get mad, my chocolate lovers, when we say, I love that food. I love bread. Okay, I love bread. I'm highly allergic to gluten, but I love bread. I don't really love broccoli. So I want you to think about this in your own life. Do you love asparagus? Do you love lettuce? Do you love your dressing on your salad? When people use the word love, I want you to know it's something going on in the brain. It's giving us a dopamine hit. Women love their chocolate, and it usually means we are highly sensitive. When we're eating things we're highly sensitive to, yes, and we are allergic to, at least for this moment, I'll talk about how to heal that as the third point today for solutions. What it does is it can absolutely, absolutely cause anxiety. And I'll get into gut health in a little bit, but gut health is related to anxiety. So chemicals, we can be allergic to them. We could be sensitive to foods in our diet, which cause cravings, which have us say, God, I love my chocolate. I love my wine. I love bread. I mean, I grew up with bread with olive oil. Yes. And so the term I love is a good tip off to you to know you're most likely sensitive to it. I love my coffee, and then don't make me take my coffee out with milk and cream. No problem. We don't take anything out when you work with us. And when we're eating things like this and not giving ourselves, or drinking and not giving ourselves a break, we can become very sensitive to those foods. And I'll say it again, it can cause anxiety. And given that we're looking to take anxiety down, just make a note of that today. Okay, so that is root cause number one, the food and drink, the chemicals, the sugar. Too much caffeine. We can talk about thresholds of caffeine. I don't know because I'm not working with you personally. This is a one hit today, a one hit wonder, I call it. yeah, of being here in my workshop. And so just know that that is one aspect. Now, when people say, okay, that's one, what else you got for me, Jen? Well, the second thing is mental, emotional health, okay? Very similar to if you have anxious parents, you can be predisposed for sure. I was very anxious. My mom is very anxious, even in her 70s. I love her, but damn, she's anxious. Nervous, my mom. Our nervous systems tend to match up with the environment in which we grew up in. And so good luck with that as an Italian, recovering Catholic, guilt and shame and anxiety. Okay. So what do I want to talk about second is mental and emotional. Okay. So a mental emotional state affects anxiety. Now, if you grew up in an environment where you did have, I'll say it again, anxiety or depression or mental illness in your family, fine, it's life. We're dealt the cards that were dealt, but you have to know that you're predisposed to be anxious. Okay, that's been proven. So what does that mean? Well, it means we'll talk about solutions in a bit, but I just don't want you to write off, oh, I'm just a nervous person, or, oh, I have a lot of indecision in my life. It typically has come from somewhere else and it ain't yours. And so why do I share that? I share it because I want you off your own damn back that it's your fault. Okay. My mother has very poor, I'll just say self-esteem, her chatter, indecisive. And guess what I was for decades? Nervous, indecisive. If you have narcissism in your family, or you're dating someone, or you're married to someone, you have a partner or a relative who has narcissistic tendencies, that will raise your anxiety. Yes, people who are out of integrity, people who are nervous themselves, we will absolutely, I'm going to guess you're highly sensitive, you will absorb their energy. So I'd like you to be aware that it's not just, oh, I'm tweaking my caffeine based on this today, and I'm going to start stabilizing my blood sugar. But you have to know your environment affects you, your environment. And I will get into solutions, but I can already tell some of you are thinking, what am I going to do to change my environment? We'll get there. But I just want you to know, again, it's not your fault, and your environment absolutely affects you. Absolutely. And I will say this because I don't know many of you that are joining today, or I know this, people are going to be watching this at a later date. Unresolved trauma, okay? If you're abused physically, I am so sorry, or emotionally as a kid, or you're in an abusive relationship now, you have to know your anxiety comes from unresolved trauma and abuse from when we were growing up or now. And so, yeah, we can tweak other things, but unless we work on this piece as well, I find anxiety doesn't ever reduce and stay down, okay? So keep that in mind. Feel like, oh, I've got some of that. Now, you could hit me up later with, do you have some practitioners or people I could talk to do some deep inner work? But it's just not your fault. If you take nothing else from this today, I would love for you to walk away from this anxiety-free holidays and life workshop with it's not your fault, okay? This stuff is not taught in school. It's not taught. The doctors just want to put us on antidepressants. Trust me, I know. Xanax, I have family members on that stuff. It's just not your fault, okay? These real life solutions that I'm going to be offering, they're just not there, which is why I wanted to teach them today. Okay, so number 3 of the root cause of anxiety are hormones. Hormones are affected by lack of sleep, stress. We're going to talk about that. Poor gut health, drugs interacting in our system, supplements that we're taking. And I just want to mention real quick the drugs in our system. There is no judgment if you're on meds and other things. It's life. Should we be working together? I'd want to know about that. Yes, if you're in my Freedom Club and stuff, or if we're doing our 4-month intensive. definitely let me know so we can talk about things. But I remember when I had surgery 2 years ago, and they put me under sedative. They gave me that sedative thing. I was like, no. They're like, trust me, you're going to want extra stuff. I want you to know the drug interaction with my own body and my own system a day or two after I had come out of the surgery, I literally felt psychotic. It's a true story. I had a practitioner help clear it out of my body other than what I teach, sweating, yes, and sleeping it off and hydrating, right, and to get the drugs out. But I just want you to know drug interactions are real. I remember going, this is not me. I feel crazy. And so if that resonates in you today, then great. I'm sharing my personal story so that you can know that drug interactions, lack of sleep, supplements, okay, and hormone changes affect our anxiety, okay? And so I will get to the solutions pretty much in a moment because I want to make sure halfway through this that I can absolutely have time to talk to you all. So please come on camera. But stress is the underlying or the overlay umbrella that throws our hormones off, that affects our gut health, that requires us to need supplements. Okay, oh, we're coming back in. And so I just want to remind you or teach you today that stress absolutely affects us by raising our cortisol levels. And when cortisol is high, for those who are struggling with weight gain, it's real. Cortisol affects your insulin levels, causes inflammation in the body. I teach all about that in my programs. And causes weight gain, affects gut health. It's all, can you see it? It's a cascade of events. And then before we know it, we're eating a certain way and binging or drinking. We've got a family history of anxiety or nervousness, or in an environment where it's unhealthy. And then we've got our hormones off. We're taking some meds. We're not sleeping great. Yes, our gut health is off. We're bloated, or we have the runs, or we're constipated. And the doctors don't know. They go, Michelle, or Jennifer or Lisa or whatever, yeah? Take a pill. And it semi-works, but it doesn't really. And that's because, can you see these three major root causes are all interacting, and one drug, no offense to drugs or therapy sessions, but they don't get the job done because these three pieces need to be addressed. Now, if you are in my community, you saw that I had written about, because I'm full transparency, anxiousness yesterday. I was like, I'm teaching a workshop on this. Where the hell did that come from? And I'm laughing this way because I always make lemonade out of lemons. Always, always, always. And I thought, what could I have missed that I want to teach? Because I do all the stuff that I teach. And my family did have COVID, and I was not sleeping well. So for sure, my hormones could have been affected. But I realized something else, and it's a bonus today. I call it bonus 4. And it's when we have too many open-ended issues in our life, we will have anxiety. And so I have 4 or 5 things. And they didn't even have to be big things. True story. Did I write them down? Some were big. I wrote them down. Some weren't. Working on a new website. Hair stuff. Like really, it doesn't have to be huge. Let my hair just grow out and do some fun, great thing. Potentially. And so I had a hair thing. I had a gym thing. I had vegetarian now after I had done this plant medicine journey. Stuff with the business, I had to make a decision. Stuff in the marriage. It's like real life stuff. Should I hire this person or not? And I realized, so number 4 bonus today is if you have too many open-ended decisions that you need to make in your life, you will feel anxious. And so I'll get to the solution on that, which we all know is make a fucking decision. But I just want you to know bonus 4 on that is too many open-ended, too many balls up in the air, too many of them will cause anxiety. Okay, so with that said, I'm glad I got to share the 3-4 root causes. What I really want to do now with the time, I want to talk solutions because, right, without solutions, this is great information, but what the hell am I going to do with that, Jen? Okay, so here's what I want to share. Number one, going back to root cause one, food, drinks that are causing our blood sugar not to be stabilized and we could be sensitive to. So all jokes aside, do not laugh. You're like, you got to be kidding, but because the solutions aren't difficult. I need you to eat. For those who know me, they're like, here she goes again. I need you to not skip meals. I need you to stabilize your blood sugar by eating meals. And a meal can't just be a piece of bread. So I need you to know that things like that spike blood sugar or some candy or some chocolate. I need you to eat meals, real food, real food, real food. Real food is a piece of grilled chicken. Real food for those vegetarians is quinoa with tofu. Yeah, or a plate of vegetables, maybe with some olive oil and a salad and some nuts or seeds, depending on what you eat. Maybe a piece of fish. I don't have anything against eating grass-fed, grass-finished steak and things like that. I just recently vegetarian, but I need you to eat meals. I had a woman in my 5-week to a binge-free life. Amazing. Still waiting on her testimonial. She's not here today, but literally within 3 weeks, like anxiety was reduced, binging gone. And she went from eating these chemical-filled protein bars all the time because they're quick to eating real food that stabilizes her blood sugar. She's like, I feel like a new person. I said, yes, because God created our bodies to eat food, not things in packages, okay? That stuff causes anxiety. Now, another solution to this piece of food and drink, really easy for those who are not with me, you're new, you're learning from me. I need you to get the chemicals down. And I'm going to be teaching this in my kids' 6th grade classroom. I don't expect them to want to read all these labels. They're adorable little kids, right? So I'm going to say the same thing to you. But I'm going to teach if a bag of chips, let's just say sour cream, something, and you want a bag of chips that day because this is real life and I'm about real life. Well, just pick the ingredients with the least number of ingredients. It's how I do it when I'm in a rush sometimes. Like chips for the kids with this and that. Like, oh, 4 ingredients to, oh my God, I have to literally almost 50. Put on reading glasses to read that shit. I want you to know, I don't care what the front of that package says. If I need reading glasses, that shit's gone. Oh, 4 ingredients, I'll buy it. This mayo or that mayo. This mustard or that mustard. These chips or these, this chocolate or that chocolate. It's really, really just simple, easy way. Less ingredients, less chemicals. Memorize that. And I need you to do that. And there are over 100 names for sugar. I teach that in the method. You could Google it as well if you're not with us that way. I need the sugar down. There's over 100 names. I need the chemicals out. Just buy stuff with less ingredients. I know Diet Coke. I know sugar's addictive. I realize all that. This is not an anti-addiction workshop today, okay? That's the other stuff I do. But for anxiety purposes, I need the sugar down, okay? If you're drinking 4 cups of coffee, maybe you'll consider 2 and a nice cup of herbal tea, okay? Or maybe a green tea or a white tea has less caffeine. I need the caffeine down. I need less chemicals and I need more food in you. And you will notice a difference in your anxiety. Okay, that is solution 1. Number 2 solution about the mental and emotional and this poor mental chatter we have. I need you to consider, this is fun because people are like, wait, what? I need you to consider who you hang out with. I'm going to say it. Birds of a feather flock together. Doesn't mean we judge our friends or they're not good enough for us after this. I'm just saying, if you've got people who are Debbie Downers, there's no way in bloody heck that you're ever not going to feel like Debbie Downer, okay? We are the sum average of the 5 people we hang out with the most. Sum average of the 5 people. So start hanging out with other people who are confident, who make decisions, quick, strong decisions, who don't talk about other people, who are good, high ethics. It's a true story. It'll bring your anxiety down. When we're hanging out with people who don't make decisions and we're struggling that way, we're just feeding the engine. I don't want that for you. So number one, I want you to consider who you hang out with. Number two, I want you to start noticing, really, you got to start somewhere. And this is what I teach. 4 steps to real change. Okay. Number one is you start noticing. So I want you to start noticing when you're calm and when your anxiety starts to flare up, and start doing something about it. Okay. 4 steps to real change. The first one is if you don't notice it, you ain't never going to change it. Okay. Number 2 is to call bullshit on it. Oh, I'm feeling this way, but is this real? No, this is just a feeling I'm having. Number 3 is to have support around it, so you're not just carrying this weight. Some of you already here with us, great. You've got someone else for support, great. But I can't have you just going this alone, okay? You'll never, ever get past this. So step 1, I need you to notice when it is and start figuring out the pattern. 2, call bullshit on it. It's a feeling, it's not real. Number 3, I need support for you. Nothing changes without support, true story. I called people yesterday like, what? I'm experiencing something, and I got to just talk it through, okay? And I hired a coach, true story, this morning. Clear that shit out, because I don't, Jen doesn't waste any time. I'm like, we're getting that handled. And then number 4 is you ask yourself an empowering question. You can use this any time in your life to bring anxiety down and get you out of this mindset you're in, right? It's like this downward spiral. And it's an empowering question, something along the lines of, what would a smart, confident, peace-filled, successful, you could throw in there, healthy, energetic woman, what would she do right now in this scenario? And you ask yourself an empowering question. You see, because when we talk to ourselves from the anxious self place, we ain't ever, never gonna get out. Never, ever, ever. And so I always say, you're here feeling anxious. Well, literally, I've been taught to change chairs, change your outfit, take a shower, change a chair, change where you're sitting, and ask yourself that question. And then you tell me if your anxious levels came down a notch or 2, okay? Because they will every single time. Okay, the other thing I want you to do, okay, so that's the inner work. Is that like some kumbaya thing? I love that term. No, but that's where, for those who have never heard of that before, just starting to notice when it flares up and changing something, right? That's just not a quickie, but I'm teaching you today. Hopefully you're taking notes. If not, you'll come back on the replay to at least start noticing. See, my goal is for when this workshop is complete today, that you walk away with 2 to 3 nuggets of information that you can start applying to bring anxiety down, or frankly, make it go away altogether. Right. And so my thing isn't for this to be the end all be all, but for you to grab some nuggets today from this. Okay. So the other piece I wanted to talk about, because I promised a woman who couldn't make it today, who said, Jen, I have a question. So thank you for asking that ahead of time. What is a good solution for being around people that make us feel anxious? Yes. And so not only if it's family, and it happens to be a family member. And so you can't just, when I said you're the sum average of 5, that's great. But if it's your mother-in-law or your mother or your brother or a cousin or someone that's in your vicinity, yes, it's not like we're just going to change that up. And in this case, I believe it was a mother-in-law. And so I'll just say that, because what the heck? In my case, it's my mother. I love her, but God bless us all. And so what do I want to share about that? Well, what do you do? And we can do this more when I open up the lines, okay, for conversation, but I promise I would answer this. So when we're around people that make us anxious, Another solution I wanted to talk about, and I'll link it together, has to do with boundaries. Okay, boundaries. And so we can limit the amount of time that person is in our vicinity. They make us anxious. We can decide what kind of conversations we want to have. I tend to keep it real light with my mom around the weather and other things. I'm not talking politics, not talking religion. I'm not talking about anything we grew up with. I kind of keep it light. And if it's going in a downward spiral, which can happen pretty quickly sometimes, I am in control of the conversation. I change the subject. Okay. So boundaries are very important. Limiting the amount of time you are with these individuals, okay, is very helpful, because memorize this. We can't change people. The only thing we can change is ourselves. We can't change people. And so I choose to change myself in situations. And it's only so much. So it's boundaries. You control the conversation. You control the amount of time. I am known, if someone's like in my face, super close, like I back up. I'm known at parties, I go away. I go for walks. True story. I am really fun at parties. I go for walks. I just remove myself from the energy versus, right, letting the anxiety build. You're feeling their anxiousness up. Before you know it, at a party, you're drinking wine to calm yourself. Yes, you're drinking the wine, the chips and the salsa at party. I used to do things that would not calm myself in the real long term, but what they would do is they would be a short-term solution. And so boundaries, you control the conversation. The other thing I promised Christy I would share is that not to take it personally. So this other solution to this mental and emotional and feeling nervous around, people, and anxious people can make us anxious, is I don't take what they're saying to me personally. I need you to memorize that today for solution number 2 to anxiety. Yes, I need you to memorize. I do not, and I know I have a very, I don't know if abrupt is the right word, personality. I am definitely very forward. I am definitely the way I am with you in the real world. Like what you see is what you get. If I don't like something, I'm kind of going to tell you. It's just my way. I have one switch, and it's honesty and high integrity and ethics. It's like a concept for some people. But my point is, I do not take it personally if someone snaps at me, or they're in my face, or dare I say, they're saying something rude, or they're offering a comment that I didn't ask. That can cause us anxiety. I am here to share that shit is not about you, and you are absolutely to tell yourself that while they're talking, this is not about me. I don't need to carry this. I don't need to carry this. I don't need to hold this. This is not about me. And I'm telling you now, should you do that, a lot of you have head chatter, and I promise I talk about this mental chatter. It will help bring it down when you're not thinking, what could I have done different? What could I have said different? How did I cause this? You know what? Screw it. People have their own issues. And as we age and get wiser, people's shit comes up to the surface even more. It's why I truly believe people get divorced. No judgment. I'm working on my own marriage right now. 40s, late 30s, 40s, 50s, but this 40-ish, 50 mark. It's because everyone's stuff comes up to the surface and everyone starts taking everyone else's stuff personally. I'm not interested. Do you hear me? And neither should you be. So for solution number 2 around this mental emotional piece, I need you to not take it personally. Consider who you hang out with. Start doing some of the inner work. Now, I can teach that on another class, but for today, I want to keep it about anxiety-free holidays. And this was the mental piece. The third piece, the third solution, yes? Whew. By the way, I feel in this moment, should you be on replay or watching live? Because there's a lot I'm teaching. So before we talk about the third solution, which is about the hormones, yes, and how what we're going to do with that in our gut health and stress. I just would love it. I do this all the time, by the way, so I'm going to do it with you. I'm going to do it. Close your eyes. I do it all the time, by the way. It's like, I call them midday resets, although it's early here, but it's still, we need a midday reset. I will close my eyes if I'm in the car and I'm running around with the kids. Just take some deep breaths. Or if I'm in the middle of a meeting, the meeting's gone on too long, or 3 meetings in a row for those super busy. Yeah, busy in meetings and successful, career women. I get it. I just, really, you're going to do it with me. I actually feel a difference. Just take a deep breath. It's a midday deep breath. Okay, when anxiety starts to build, this is not in my notes anywhere, but this is just reality. And so I'm going to teach you this. Take some deep breaths. Okay, when we start to feel anxious, we're cutting off the blood supply, the oxygen to our brain. Okay, we're cutting it off. Starting to feel nervous. Screw it. I don't want you to feel nervous. I want you to take midday resets. I do it all the time. It's a true story. And you might need one in the morning. I shared a story coaching with one of my clients yesterday. So much with the kids. Just so much. I needed a reset at 7 a.m. Too much was coming at me. So you could have a 7 a.m. reset. Me, it's the middle of the day. Let's do a reset before I teach you solution 3, okay, to an anxiety-free holidays and life. Sometimes I will do 3. Call them Buddha belly breaths, okay? They're in my book, If You Own It, Woman Unleashed. We're just getting oxygen to the brain. Now, with that said, the beauty of me segueing with breathing into these hormones, lack of sleep, gut health, this drug interaction piece, right? This physiological thing going on in the body is that stress friggin' totally screws us up. So a great way to bring stress down other than to divorce your spouse. I'm gonna laugh because some of you know what I mean. Some of you are divorcing your spouses. Those who love their spouse, but they cause them stress, or you want to divorce your job, but you can't because it's your livelihood, or divorce the boss, or if you have clients you want to divorce, I don't allow that anymore. No one comes into my space that is not loved and it's not reciprocal. But should you have that, deep breathing really does help bring down cortisol, okay? And so here's what I wanted to talk about with regards to bringing down stress. Okay. Sleep affects everything. And I can't just teach you a million sleep things. However, if you are in the Sugar Freedom Method or Freedom Club, there is stuff in there. So I want to remind you, we have an entire sleep protocol. But what I want to teach you today, for those who aren't sleeping, I need you to find ways to sleep. And anxiousness is definitely being affected by your sleep. And I don't mean go take an Ambien, although people come see us and they're on them, fine. A good magnesium citrate can help. You're welcome to hit me up after this call and ask me a question about that. I'm not here to teach in depth around that. I am going to teach around gut health because that's a big deal. But if you're not sleeping, I need you to find ways to sleep. And magnesium citrate is one good thing to do, okay? Specifically targets parts of the body that help with sleep, okay? That is the one magnesium citrate. Okay, the number 2 thing is, and I've said it, and I know you may not be working with me, so it's okay, but I need you to review all your supplements and the drugs that you're taking. Under a doctor's care, do it with your doctor. They might be like, what are you talking about? I don't care what they say. They don't know. Go to them, have a conversation. Okay, a lot of times we're on anti-anxiety medicine, and no joke, a side effect is anxiety. Well, how the hell are you going to get your anxiety down, sister, if you're on a drug that causes anxiety as a side effect? And am I judging it? No. But I'm saying I need you to take a look at that as a result of today's workshop, so that you feel empowered, not just to change your food or your environment, or start controlling more in your environment around boundaries and other things, but for you to take a look at what you're ingesting around your drugs and your supplements, okay? Because they absolutely affect your hormones. Absolutely, hands down. I need you to learn to sleep. That's number 2. And the third one I have is I want to talk to you about your gut health. Now, this may be redundant for some, but for many, you'll be like, what? If you did not know this, serotonin, so I need you to work on your gut health, okay? And I will absolutely offer you, as a result of this workshop today, I would never say, oh, go figure that out. That is very, very, very hard to do on your own. And so if you haven't already asked me about gut health and you're not in one of our programs, just know I'm going to attach to this replay something to help fix your gut. There is so much garbage out there and it doesn't work, okay? There are so many probiotics on the market that are garbage. There are enzymes and all these things that have all these chemicals and these fillers that, guess what, cause anxiety, drives me flipping nuts. And so I decided as a result today of this workshop that I'm going to share with you, for those who don't have it, my signature gut healing protocol. And that's because people don't know that serotonin, I want to make sure we're great on time. I have plenty of time. I'll have about a half hour, okay? Or so you'll ask me questions. Serotonin, for those who don't know, is the feel-good hormone, okay? It's what they say they put in these antidepressants, right? Oh, we're going to get your serotonin levels up. It's actually not exactly what happens. I'm not going to get into it here, and I'm not an expert on antidepressants, but that's why when people have to keep changing their dosages, I also want to say there's no judgment if you're on that, no judgment. But the issue why they don't work long-term, I know because my parents were on them most of their life, and my father was always depressed, and my mother always had anxiousness and depression. I'm like, shit doesn't work. And I say it because 80+% of serotonin is made in your gut. Take that in. So if your gut health is off, you ain't ever, ever, ever going to fix your anxiety. I would know because I was anxious for forever. And I was born very sick. I had a cyst on my neck. They didn't want to cut it out. My mother said for the first year, she said, please don't do it. And they put me on antibiotics for the first whole year of my life. And don't you think that they were putting me on a probiotic in the 70s, my friends? No. And so my gut health was a mess. Now back to serotonin is made in the gut. It's the feel-good hormone. And every time a woman comes sees me and we fix her gut, her anxiety comes down amongst all these other things we do. But it's because what? Serotonin is made in the gut. And so how would you know you have gut issues? Well, you have anxiety. 2, so many things, but we'll just talk about the bowels. You're either runny all the time or you're constipated, you don't go regular. You have stomach pain. You have bloating. I hear this a lot. I bloat, Jen. I bloat after meals, okay? That means you have some sort of dysbiosis, okay? The bacteria in your gut, they're not balanced. And when that is the case, you're going to have anxiety. And the truth is, I meant it when I said I really don't have anxiety. It's not there. And I can have moments of feeling anxious, moments. And I'm like, I feel anxious today. There's something there. I want you to know I go right to my gut protocol. Start taking a probiotic, you'll see what's there. I take this enzyme to help break down, and I take a good probiotic. I take glutamine. I take this supplement. I'll show you. It's not a lot of stuff, but it's proven to heal your gut. The protocol will teach you. Why do I talk about that today? Because you could be doing all these other things, best therapist, eating clean, pretty much love your spouse, all these other things, but your gut health is a mess. Well, guess what? You're missing a major component to bringing your anxiety down. And so I'm not going to get into all that now because I'm going to include it here as part of the replay. But just know when your gut health is out, and there's a protocol I'm going to share with you. And if you're with us already and you're not on it, get on it. Get on it. I can't get over what happens for women. And yes, for those who want to shed some annoying weight and bring inflammation down, I'm telling you now, this protocol does that too. It's really God's gift to the planet. And it was handed to me decades ago, okay? And I tweaked it and it works. And so please know that your gut health is everything. Okay, that is number 3 to solution. Now, I promised you the bonus solution 4, because I talked about this whole indecision thing. Yes, for those who just came on or you're watching replay, you'll recall that I mentioned that having too many balls up in the air okay? Causes anxiety, causes our minds not to feel at rest and at peace because we're constantly, I don't know, should I, shouldn't I, should I, shouldn't I? I would love for you, yeah, I had some notes today. Take out a piece of paper if you haven't already. Okay, this is bonus number 4 solution. And you write down on one side things that are on my mind, okay? And then I want you in another column to write down, can I control this? Yes or no? Is this in my control? And if it's in your control and you put a Y there, well, then I need you to friggin' come up with a solution and put a date on it. If it's an N for no, it means you're giving it up to God. This is out of my control. And you can pray about it, the universe, whatever it is that you believe in. But it's the issue. All those things, I want them off your mind. If it's a yes, you can control it. Friggin' give yourself a date and what you're going to do about it. If it's a no, I'm all about hearts. Give it a heart and give it up to God. Because there ain't no therapist that's going to do better than that. I mean it, meaning there's only so much we can do. And so around these balls up in the air thing, that is in your control. And that is for you, like I said earlier, around noticing your mental chatter and when you get anxious. I can't do the work for you around you noticing the pattern of when you get anxious and you starting to break it. And just like here, I can't get all that stuff out of your head. If I could, I would do it for you. Okay. I need you to do this one exercise around what it is. I do this often, by the way. I'll just literally, I call it like a brain dump. I'm just going to get everything out of your head. Second column, can you control it? Yes. If so, great. That's on you. What's the date? What are you going to do about it? It doesn't have to be immediate like me. I made 4 decisions in one day. How you do anything is how you do everything. I'm like a woman on fire. I'm like, oh, I have issues. Oh, I'm off. Okay. It's kind of fun. That's how I like to do things. And if not, you can put a heart next to it and you're going to give it up to God. If you have issues with faith and other things, fine. It's for another workshop. But just know this, you can only change what you can control. And the rest you need to give up to God. Okay. I love it. With that said, I am going to end here. I'm going to end here. I'm going to close the recording out for those who just want this, and then I'm going to start up Q&A. But I just want to say thank you for being here and watching this and listening and taking notes and making your life better with just 1 or 2 nuggets you can take from this today. And if you need help, great. There's ways to find me. It'll be here in the replay. Some of you know me a very, very, very long time. If I don't have you already, I am ready for you when you are ready. All right. Thank you for being here.